Welcome, beautiful teachers. This is your weekly show on YouTube where I share the latest news and goings on in the music teaching industry, and we dive into one special topic and also answer any questions that are on your mind right now. If you have a question about anything, I will get back to everything at the end if I miss it in the flow of the show. So just type the word question followed by your question. That helps me search for it later and make sure I don't miss you out. Speaking of questions, though, oh, that's confetti. Speaking of questions, though, we need to choose my weird and wonderful snap camera for the question time. So here's what you're going to vote between today. This is the first one. I hope no one finds this offensive. I have to choose between a lot of different ones. The main reason for choosing this for me is the rainbow t-shirt. So that's number one. That's going to be called Rainbow. And here's option number 2. I think this might be the one you go for. Corn! Who wants me to look like corn? It's kind of weird how my teeth are kind of like little corn kernels. Is this too distracting for me to answer your questions? Or is it just hilarious enough? I'm happy to embarrass myself in whichever way you prefer. There's this one. Rainbow or corn? Cynthia says number 2, which is this one. Carrie also says corn. Corn from Rachel as well. It sounds like we have an out-and-out winner today. Oh my gosh. No one is voting for the other one. Okay, the corn is the winner. The corn will be back at the end of the show. So stay on for the full show and ask your questions throughout to keep me as corn for longer. The more questions I have to answer, the longer I will be in this form. With that being said, let's dive into our news. Right, in my news this week, personal update, and I'd love to hear yours. How's your week going? What's going on in your studio? For me, I've been doing a lot more scales videos, as usual. You're probably sick of hearing me say that, but that's why I have 2 different colors on my hands. As always, that means I'm doing scale videos. So I was doing some 2-octave videos, which made me super happy because I got to play a little bit faster. And the beginner, really slow ones were quite tough to get through just because they were so slow. So that was part of my week. I was also putting together a member survey. So if you're a member of Vibrant Music Teaching, if you're not, you can sign up at vibrantmusicteaching.com. But if you are a member, you can find a survey probably in your email and definitely in the forums that I would really appreciate you filling out. It's been really wonderful to read through those, get some feedback from members. We're happy to take suggestions and improvements, but thankfully, in a way, we don't get that many of those. We get a lot of really wonderful comments, which is lovely. But I'd love to get your feedback so we see where we can spend the most resources, the most time, the most money, investment on the site, like what's working out the most for you so that we can invest in that more and do more of what works for you, because that's what we're all about. That's the whole point. But one of the lovely things on those forums for me has been reading the section where we ask, okay, before you joined, what were you afraid of? Like what made you hesitate to join if you did? And after you joined, was that fear founded or not? And one of the most, the most common fear before people joined was, is it going to be worth it? And compared to other memberships, we're pretty affordable, but I still understand that for teachers, money is not extremely, free flowing, and we all need to look after it, and I do get that. And you want to consider where you spend your money very carefully. Totally understandable. But so many had said, before I joined, I was afraid it wouldn't be worth the cost. And every one of those teachers says, after I joined, I don't know how I did without this, and it's completely worth it. It's so valuable because we have so much inside. We really do. And the whole point of that is that you get to just do one thing, the right one thing for you, right? So you get to pick and choose and just do bits and pieces, and it makes it worth it for every single member, I hope, because we have such a variety that you can find the valuable resource for you. It's not actually about having lots of stuff. It's having enough stuff that you have the choices you need to choose one thing at a time that you really want. So that's been lovely. So thank you for all members who've filled it in so far. And if you haven't yet and you are a member, please do go check it out in the community, in the Facebook group. There's a link right there. And as I said, it's in your emails, in your member update today. So if you want to go check that out. And then I've been preparing for a masterclass, which is later, and another masterclass, which is coming up next week. Okay, special request. I'll be interrupted by the special request, Morgan. We've got yellow. They're chipping now, but we've got like a violent yellow and a violent orange because it's my super happy 2-octave major scale colors. Does it make students happy to play 2-octave major scales? I hope so, but it made me happy anyway. So next week at the same time as today's masterclass, so 5 p.m. next Monday, I'm putting together a masterclass or a webinar for parents. And so this is going to be only open to Vibrant Music Teaching members' parents. So I've included the link again in the forums. You can send that to your parents so that they can register and just encourage them to do so. Tell them that I have good information generally and that it will be interesting, because I promise you it will be. It's going to be specifically relevant to parents of tween and teen students. So those students where you're a little bit worried that they're on the brink of a complete mood shift and they might be at risk of quitting. Like they're transitioning to middle school or high school and you're thinking, oh, this is a dangerous time. Those parents, send them to me. And if you think the live time is not a good time, I will send a replay link. Again, that's only for members, so you will need to be a member to be able to get the link for parents to register for that and for the replay, which will be provided to you for you to share with your parents. By the way, teachers can come along. You're not welcome. Excuse the double negative. But it is going to be directed towards parents. So I will focus my energy on saying child instead of student, which is a hard shift to make, surprisingly difficult to make when I speak. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about your child instead of your student, just as an example, so you understand why it's parent directed and how it's parent directed. But it could still be valuable for you. I'm going to be talking about brain pruning and the social shift, meaning the move towards friend-focused worlds of teenagers versus when you're a young kid and really the parents are the center of the world, aren't they? And then in general news, last but very much not least, I've been doing a lot of things to get ready for our conference. So if you haven't signed up yet, that's at teacherturboboost.com, teacherturboboost.com. And that is not far away now. So if you haven't got your ticket, it is time to get on it. It's going to be on the 11th of April to the 15th of April. It's 1 week, 5 days. If you have any questions about it and you're watching live or in the comments, just ask me. But yeah, it's like a month away now. So must be exactly 4 weeks. Someone can verify whether I'm accurate on that. I think that's right. So it's going to be so much fun. It's an incredible deal already. But if you are a member, go into the forums and get your special link there for $20 off the price to get it for a steal of a price. But it was really fun last year, and I hope you'll join us this year again if you came last year. And for the first time, you'd be very welcome either way. Then outside of stuff I've been doing, we also have been releasing our usual helpful content. So we have a new YouTube video if you want to check it out on the channel here, which is about using your iPad using Sidecar. If you're like, what? It's about using your iPad as a second screen in your studio. And if you've no idea why that would be useful, or you don't have an iPad, just ignore it. But if that sounds like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do that, then go check it out. It is a really useful trick. And then we had some new blog content. So one of them is about sight reading games, which fits in really great with today's show. And also we had another guest post, which was about playing reading catch-up for your intermediate students who really don't have intermediate reading skills. So both great blog posts, and they're on the blog, colourfulkeys.ie/blog. All right, that's all my news. Keep letting me know your news because I love to hear it, and we will dive into our main topic for today. Teaching students to read using intervals requires a lot of reinforcement of the intervals themselves. And we all know that games are a fantastic way to do that. But we don't always have time to put together a new physical game. Do we? So if you don't have time today and you want an easy way to get to work on intervals with your students, then I have a treat for you. I have 10 ideas here, and they all use either nothing or just a few simple household objects. So this is great for those times when you need something at the last minute, or you are out of printer ink, or any other situation where you just need ways to drill intervals that are fresh and interesting, but don't take much or any prep time besides grabbing something. So number 1 is the keyboard race. This is an absolute classic. All you'll need for this is a die. Now I've got my giant one here. This is just a handy trick for any time you're working with young students, which you probably are most of the time, because they will throw it across the room and have to go get it. It doesn't break anything. It's made of foam. Okay? It's not going to hurt anything. And they're going to burn a bit of energy and kind of get the wiggles out and move around a bit, which is really useful as a midpoint of a lesson. So I love the foam ones, but you can use a regular die. You can use something quirky like this. This is a die with Chinese characters, which I picked up in China. So I have fun things like that, but I love the foam ones the most. So I picked these up at a place called Mr. Price, which is like a dollar store equivalent in Ireland. So you'll need that. And you'll need 2 tokens of some type. These are little wacko erasers, but you can use anything, any small toy, any buttons. It really doesn't matter. No one's going to be bothered whether they're little animals or not. The animals are mostly for us, right? If we're honest, our kids would be just as happy with buttons. Okay, so you're going to put those on one side of your piano or keyboard on the left end or the base end. And you're going to take turns to roll the die. And whatever you roll, you move forward that interval. So they're starting on very low A, at the bottom of the piano, the lowest A. And then they get a 5. So they move to E. I almost said C. They move to E, not stepping forward 5, right? So it is an interval of a 5th. Okay, so you just have to make that brain adjustment. With your students, if they need help figuring that out, what you need to tell them is count 1 where you already are. That's what does the trick with my students. So you can keep going until you reach middle C, or the very top of the piano if you have time for that, or just for a few goes until they're in the lead, and then you can say, oh, the game's over, you won. Whatever way works for you. So that's super simple and really accessible for your brand new students to get comfortable with intervals on the piano. Number 2 is the floorboard race. This is a similar concept, but you're going to pretend that the floorboards in your space, I'll get to if you don't have floorboards in a second, so bear with me. But if you do, like I do, I have laminate floor, so it's like boards. And you're going to pretend that the grooves between those are staff lines. And you're going to play the same game we just played on the keyboard, but on the floor staff, which is just floorboards. Now, if you have an actual floor staff and it's handy, great, use that. But floorboards work just fine. So you're going to get your 2 tokens and put them on a designated starting crease between the boards. And then you're going to roll the die, or your student is, move forward that interval. Now, keep in mind, you've got spaces and lines here, so treat it like a staff. And if you're starting on the line, pretend that's low G at the bottom of the bass clef. And then if they roll again a 5th, they're going to get to not the next line, but the line after that. Okay? So again, you're just moving up in fifths and imagining that staff, and they'll get the picture of how, or not in fifths, in intervals, of how the intervals work together and how you count 1 where you already are. If you already have interval, sprinterval, schminterval in your game library, this is a great alternative way to see it on a bigger scale. Both of them will work great. If you don't have a floor with boards on it, and you don't have a floor staff, all you need to do is grab some kind of rope, thread, ribbon, anything long and liney. So literally, if you have a spool of thread, that'll do. It doesn't have to be thick, but it could be ribbon, or it could be a thread you pulled out of your trousers that are broken. I'm just joking. But literally, you could use anything that's long, twine or anything like that. And you just lay out 5 lines of it. Simple as that. Or you can use tape, and you can tape on the floor. That's what a lot of people do in classrooms, where they have like that rough carpet that really can't be messed up with tape. You could do that as well if that's the case. Carrie says she uses washi tape a lot, so that's a great option too. Although washi tape's a bit expensive, I wouldn't want to use it too often. I'd want it to be reusable. So maybe lay out a piece of fabric and put the washi tape on that so you can reuse it later. But that's just me being frugal. Number 3. Secret taps. Okay, so this is where you're going to give your student a secret message. And this is where you need to practice your stage whisper to really sell it. So your student needs to put their hand on the piano. And you tell them what interval they need to play. And then they're going to play it. It's really that simple. But you need to up the drama a bit to make this a game. So you're going to say, second. And they're going to play. To convey that message. As if it's like Morse code. Or you could explain how the codes worked in the Second World War if you want to get into that, but you probably don't want to get distracted. Anyway, they're going to convey that. Now, where this gets more powerful is if you introduce the words melodic and harmonic and get your student to do a melodic second, a harmonic second. Once they've practiced a little bit with their eyes open, get them to close their eyes and do it with their eyes closed. And then if you want to add more specificity, you can say which note it starts on. So it can be a melodic third going down from F. And they have to play F, D. So it depends on your student, where they're up to, but you can advance this more and more. No matter what, make sure you have a right hand and a left hand one. Because many students will get confuddled when they start to use the other hand. So it's really useful to get them to translate this into action in both hands. Number 4, pick out puzzle. A lot of method books actually have this, but you can adapt it for using in your studio, and you can expand upon it, use it way more often than just the one time it comes up in the method book. So this is where you call out a series of intervals and get your student to tell you what note they land on at the end. For example, start on E, go up a second, go down a third. Where are you? And at first they can do this on the piano. So they go E, they play F, they go down a third to D, and they say, it's D. And you say, awesome. But now, have them do it in their imagination. You can let them look at the piano at first, and then they can use their brain piano. So have them face the other way, face some direction where they can't see the piano, maybe close their eyes, and imagine the piano and see where they end up. This is really good for building their awareness of the keyboard geography as well as intervals. And you can do it tons and tons of times over lots of different lessons. So just a few in a row, and then start to build it up. And then you can start to build it up to ridiculous degrees as a joke. Once they get that they can do it, you can say something really silly like, okay, start on C, go up a seventh, go down a second, go down a third, go up a fifth, and just keep going. And see their eyes go wide. That's a good trick to play. Anyway, Make sure you're building it up a little by little over time, and it's also going to build their working memory skills, which is really, really useful for many tasks that we have to do in music and, in life. So that is pick out puzzle. Number 5. This is a funny one. Floorboard Dog. Okay, you don't need anything for Floorboard Dog except floorboards. So if you don't have floorboards, same recommendations as for our Floorboard Race, which is you lay out lines in some way using tape, using washi tape. Someone suggested Velcro strips. You can use lots of different things on carpet, or you can use a floor staff if you have one, or if you have floorboards, just use the lines that are naturally in them. So what your student is going to do is go into a downward dog. If you don't do yoga, that's the most famous pose, so I think most people do know it. But it's the one where you have your hands on the floor and your feet on the floor and your bum in the air, okay? So that's the pose we're looking for. You're going to go into a down dog. They are, with their hands on one of the lines of the floorboard and their feet on another line of the floorboards. So for most kiddos, it's going to, depending on the width of your floorboards, it might be 4, 5, 6 floorboards apart, something like that. So ignore the fact that there's supposed to only be 5 lines on the staff. That doesn't matter. And then you're going to kind of play a twister-like game. So you're going to roll your die. I said you didn't need anything. It would be best to use a dice. You can just call things out, but it is kind of better if you use a die. So you're going to roll it for them. And if it says second, they're going to move that much on the floorboards with one of their limbs. Okay? So, for example, you say, okay, right hand down, you roll the die, it lands on third. Their right hand has to go down a third. So now they're in this like staggered down dog. Are you with me? Okay. And then you roll the die again and you say this is going to be your left foot up. So you keep going like that. Just do a few in a row. They'll get the idea. And they'll start to navigate the intervals. This is magic for the same reason that the floor staff in general is magic. It's because you're actually inside it. You're physically moving through it. So your hands and your feet are the notes. Okay? And if they need a bit of help, like this is confusing to them, you can point where their limb needs to move to. Not limb, is it? It's appendage. Anyway. You see what I mean? So that is Floorboard Dog. That's one of my wackier ideas. If you try it out, I would love to hear. The next one is Chopstick Race. Now, before you go saying chopsticks are not a household item in my house, they might be if you enjoy takeaway and they give you free ones. Or if you, like me, have a Chinese man in your house. My husband is Chinese. So we have plenty of chopsticks. But if you don't have chopsticks, you can use pens, you can use forks, you can use whatever. Anything sort of straight-ish is absolutely fine. You're going to build a staff using these. So you lay them out as if they're a staff. And the magic of using those is you can size them for whatever tokens you have. So if you have these little guys, they're going to be quite close together because that's the size of your notes, right? But if you have bigger items, you can use those. I don't have any in hand right here, but if you had like plush toys or anything, you could lay out the chopsticks in a way that they're the right size for that note, okay? And then like your keyboard race and your floorboard race, you're going to move up the staff and race across the chopstick or pen or fork staff. Okay, so this might sound silly, and it also might kind of sound the same as the others. But by messing with the scale like this, and messing with the objects, students start to get the logic that is underneath this. And the staff is actually one of the most simple reading systems in the world. But people overcomplicate it, and they try to memorize every single note right off the bat. And that is not necessary and it's not helpful. So by messing with the scale, by making it floorboards and then down to chopsticks and reading actual music on a page and doing different things and also associating back to the piano with those games, you're going to reinforce how logical it is and how it's all basically the same thing, right? The piano keys are basically just the spaces and lines in the staff. That's all that's happening. It's simple. Next one is a bit strange. Bull Gnomon. Does anyone know Gnomon from the VMT library? This is a game that works on the idea of teaching fifths in a particular way. So let me explain that first. Many students, for example, if you're using Piano Safari or even many other methods, they'll play a lot of steps and skips, seconds and thirds first, and then they have to be introduced to another interval. And it's often the fifth first before the fourth. I didn't write any of these methods, but I think the main reason is just the fifth tends to be more useful because you can straight away add some harmony and stuff, and it makes it really easy to create great music, right? Then you add the fourth later. So the fifth, the way it's introduced in a lot of cases, and the way we do it in Gnomon, the game, is that you have a third, looks like, the two balls stacked on top of each other. And then a fifth looks like a snowman made of 3 balls, but he's missing the middle one. So that's how we work on it in Gnomon. But as a simple way to reinforce this or teach this concept, we're going to do Bowl Gnomon. I could have called it Bowl Man, but I think Bowl Gnomon is even more cryptic and funny. So here's how it works. You're going to get 3 bowls. And I've taken a photo just so I can show you more clearly. You're going to get 3 bowls and put them like that and show your student that this is 2 sets of thirds, which make a snowman. And the fifth looks like the snowman, but missing the center one. So it's like his head is just floating midair. And trust me, that little image is so useful for students. Now here's where we turn it into a game. You're going to have your 3 bowls, and kind of like you're playing the magician with the cups, right? What's it called? Something lady? Anyway, you're going to move the bowls around, and your student is going to have to say whether it's a third, a fifth, or you can have them say chord or triad when you make the full snowman, right? So they're referring to the snowman in their head to associate that with third, fifth, and chord. And of course you can mess with it as well, especially if your student has trouble with harmonic seconds where they're like beside each other. You could also show them with bowls. That would be a great thing to do. But that is Bowl Gnomon. So first explain the snowman analogy where he's missing his center part and he's like floating in the air, or you've got the little snowman with the 2 bowls and then the big snowman with the 3, that's the chord. And then just do a quick fire drill of which one is which in terms of the intervals. Next one is alphabet hop. I have some more props for this one. I don't have the full alphabet, but I've brought a few to show you. So, you're going to get 7 objects, 1 for each letter of the alphabet. Pick them up from your house, whatever you have. You must have something from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I've just done the first 3, because these are the easy ones. So you got apple. If you have apples at home, great, put an apple somewhere. This is also to give you a reference on the size. You don't want huge things, okay? So an apple, and then you would lay out beside that maybe a banana, and then maybe a clementine. I was very lucky that we had clementines specifically in my house, not just oranges, but you could pretend. And then you could use like a dish for D, earphones for E, or elephant toy, whatever you have, a fork for F, and a glass for G. But be careful, but don't worry, your student is not going to play with the glass. You're the one touching these objects. So you lay them all out in a row. So you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but they're objects. Okay? And then you're going to roll the die. Told you it'd come in useful. This is one of our most important props. You're going to roll it and point to one of them. Actually, let your student roll the die. And you point to an object. So if they roll a 3 and you're pointing to B, they need to name the letter that's going to be a third up or down from B. They can choose the up or down, or you could practice all ups and then practice all downs if you feel they need help going backwards in the alphabet. I would do all ups first, then all downs. So they roll the die, they get 3. At the same time, you point to the banana, and so they need to say D. See how many they can get in 1 minute, or just do it a few times in a row for giggles. and then move back to the piano to play your pieces. Number 9. We're nearly there, folks. Quick draw. This is very simple, very effective. You're going to give your students some manuscript paper, or my preferred option, but it does take a little bit more time, have them draw their own. Literally get them to draw the lines. Yes, they'll be more rough, but that's kind of part of the value, is that they're going to see like it's harder to figure it out when your lines are rough. And so they see the value in the lines and they understand the system way more. However, if you're running short on time, give them some manuscript paper. And then you're simply going to have them roll the die. I suggest a small one for this actually instead, and possibly not one with Chinese characters, but that's up to you. And draw as many intervals as they can. So every time they're rolling the die and drawing the interval. Now, if you find that your student doing this does just like GB and then GA and then like the same interval the whole time, here's your rule. There's 2 ways to go about it. The simplest is you just make it all melodic, so they have to draw them sequentially, and wherever they end up, they need to go up or down from there to draw the interval. So that's a really great way to do it. If you want to do it harmonic, you can draw a bunch of random notes all the way across the staff, several lines, like draw loads of them, and then they have to fill in all the intervals above or below what you've already drawn. Okay? So that is quick draw. Honestly, your students' drawing notes is really important. It's one of the reasons why I love composition. So that's a fantastic activity to do. Our last one, should move over here for, and that is Keyboard Race 2.0. So you may have been watching all 9 of these games and thinking, yeah, that's lovely, but what about fancy intervals? What about my intermediate students who need to learn about major and minor and diminished and all that fun jazz? Well, this is where you go back to your Keyboard Race, and it's super fun because your student's thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't played a game like this in forever. And you're just going to add one more thing to it. So the 2 tokens are again going to go on low A, bottom of the piano. You're still going to roll the die to show which interval you're moving, and you move, they move, you move, they move. But on each turn, they also have to pick from items behind your back. So let's say you're working on major, minor, and you can substitute perfect when it comes to a 4th or a 5th, right? So you're working on major, minor. Pick 2 objects. I'm going to say my frog is major and my bear is minor, just because I think blue is minor. And I'd put my hands behind my back and shuffle them each time, and they pick a hand, and whichever one it is, this one was minor, they'd have to move that amount, right? So you're moving on black keys and stuff now, and there's a lot more going on. So there you have it. Those are 10 fantastic games you can play. And all I've used so far is a couple of game tokens, and you can use anything for that. They could be buttons, they could be paper clips of different colors. I used these just for the last game, but you could use the elephant and the pig again if that's what you have, or your paper clips. I've used my die a lot. You can have a big one that's made of foam, I do recommend it, or you can have a small one. I've used a bowl. Actually, I used 3 bowls together. I'm sure you have some bowls, don't you? Right? You eat out of something? Great. I used some chopsticks, but you could also substitute pens or any other stick-like object. Even real sticks, that'd be fun. And then I used items beginning with letters of the alphabet. That's it. That's all we used. And we played 10 awesome games. I hope you have fun with them. Just pick out one. Remember our mantra, just do one thing. Pick out one of those and try it out. Don't try to do all 10. Don't try to remember all of them. Whichever one stands out to you as being easy and fun, do that one. And let me know how you get on. We are wrapping up our book in our book club today. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on what we should do next. Those of you who read along with me, let me know what we should read. We have been reading Teaching Piano to Students with Special Needs, and that was a great suggestion by a fellow viewer. I was about to say watcher and I couldn't think of the right word. Viewer of the show. So let me know what you would like us to read. Or if you want us to ditch the book club, you can let me know that too. I won't be offended. This week we were just reading the final chapter, which was a short one, and it was really about teaching adult students in general. She said adult students with special needs, but it was actually really about teaching adults in general and some of the values of that, and how it can often be very healing for adults who maybe didn't have access to music growing up for whatever reason, or had a bad experience with music, or just bad experiences in childhood in general. To come to music lessons as an adult can be a really wonderful thing. And she also spoke about parents taking lessons alongside their kid. And I can say firsthand, that is one of the best things ever. If you have had a mum or dad take lessons with their kiddo, like they both take lessons, I don't mean actually together, I mean they both take lessons, oh my gosh, isn't that valuable? They spur each other on so much in terms of practice, they support each other so much to like keep going when things are hard, because they understand it so much better, and it means a lot more to the kid when the adult is saying, oh, but you're going to feel so good when you have done this. They've seen their parents struggle with something and feel so good at the end, and that's a huge example. So it really is wonderful, but it was mostly just a wrapping up chapter and a little bit about adults. All in all, though, the book was really great. Those of you who read it, I think, will agree that it's a great little read. It's super short and entertaining in a good way. Like, it's not just entertainment, it is valuable information, but it's also a really easy to read book because it's interesting and full of stories. So I do recommend it. It's called Teaching Piano to Students with Special Needs, and it's by Mary Ann Froelich. No one taught me to say that word. I should have looked it up. Whoops. Anyway, I do recommend it. It was great fun. Angela, right? So wonderful when that happens. I love it. Okay, so if you have recommendations, thoughts for our book for next time, if you remember, leave them in the community. I'd love to hear what you think we should read. Or you can leave them in the comments here. Either or is good, but I hope you enjoyed that book and our discussions of it each week. Okay, I haven't seen many questions come through, so I don't think I'm going to be a corn for long. But if you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go through the chat here, make sure I've answered anything that people didn't type the word question before. But if you have a question now, make sure to ask it. It can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about today's topic, by the way. Really can be anything at all. If I take a sip of water, the corn just completely disappears. That's very funny. Okay. Lots of lovely comments about our ideas today. That's awesome. So glad you guys enjoyed it. Fantastic. Oh, Helen, I missed that one. Yes, I love that game. I played that with some of my late intermediates as well, and it's really great to work on those interval qualities. A reminder, by the way, to members that we have our parent webinar coming up next week at 5 p.m. my time, which is around this time for you when you're watching this, just after this show. So that's going to be next week. Make sure to suggest it to them. I'm going to keep it to about 30 minutes, just because I know parents are busy and it's a big investment to come to something training for like one of your child's activities, which is really what we are a lot of the time. Yeah. Oh, that's fun, Morgan. Yeah, you can definitely use the bowls with your overhead cam. That's a great idea. And get your student to do it on their end too. If you have the time for them to go grab some bowls themselves, especially if they have some plastic ones that their mum's not going to be upset about them like putting on the floor, then that's a great option. The brain piano is huge. Building up students' brain piano is an underrated activity. Okay, well, I'm going to see some of you on the masterclass very shortly. But if I don't, I might see you back here on the show next week. We're going to be talking about Well, we're continuing our sort of countdown theme. So it's 9 reasons to teach piano pattern pieces, meaning like rote pieces, intentional rote pieces, and how to teach by rote. So I'm going to be giving some tips and reasons to consider doing it if you haven't gotten started already. In the meantime, I hope you have a fabulous week, and I'll see you then.